And we are live. I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. Tonight's topic is the importance of credit worthiness. And my guest tonight is Sherry Francis. This is Sherry's second time on my podcast. Sherry, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherry Francis. I'm socially known on social media as the 850 Credit Queen. And I'm so thankful for Bree for having me back a second time on her podcast. And congratulations, Bree, on 1 year of podcasting.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was blessed this year, Sherry. God bless me with guests like yourself. We're getting some good information out there, and, it just means a great deal to me. And, I'm just so thankful that you were willing to come back. Like I said to you earlier, your episode was well received. You gave really great information. So I feel blessed having you back on my platform tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And for those out there, please say hello. Let us know you're in the house. And if there are any questions or comments, please feel free and we'll do our best to answer your questions. Andrew's saying hello to all. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrew. I appreciate you so much. Well, Sherry, we'll jump right into it. We are living during a time where many are struggling financially. For those struggling whose credit score is low, is there anything that can be done to restore their credit score?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I love about credit is that it's not stagnant, right? It's moving. It's kind of like water. Like it goes up, it goes down, and it all depends on what you do. Most people think that the credit score is somebody else is controlling it, but the person that drive the credit score is you, the individual. So to anybody out there, whether you're struggling financially or not, if your score is low, there is hope for it to come out. It's just a matter of understanding credit, right? One of the things I noticed from doing this for the past 3 years is that credit education, it just wasn't taught in school. It's a myth. It's like something we never heard of. Like I've been through elementary, high schools, middle schools, collegiate level, and it was never a class dedicated to finances. Unless you were a business major, and I even think even there, they don't tap into the world of credit. So unfortunately, most of us don't learn about credit until it's too late, until we need it, right? So if you're in a position where financially you're not right, I challenge you to just seek information. There's tons of information out there. YouTube. Today's day and age, you have so much resources. If you just go on YouTube and just type the minimum, you'll get information. It doesn't cost anything to get free information. Lack of knowledge is going to cost you. So I urge people, use the free information that's on the internet so that we can get that info that you need.
Hi, Mikey. Mikey said hi. Thank you for joining us, Mikey. I appreciate you so much, my friend. Yeah, what you said is really true because, to be honest with you, I've never really paid finances much attention. And it was like going through a divorce and starting over where, I was in my 50s and it was like, oh my gosh, it was a rude awakening. And your answer leads right into my second question. When should children begin learning about credit and finances?
That is a really good question, Bree. So, there's no set age, right? But I would say in your household as early as possible, however you feel fit, how much, depending on the household, depending on the information you have, right? So because I have a lot more knowledge now, my mom didn't have the knowledge I have, but because I have that knowledge now, what I can say is I have a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I start in little ways. It's not so much that I'm sitting them down talking about credit and what it is and the definition, but what I do is I talk about the value of things, right, around the house. So I'm going to just give a quick example. My daughter wants a new iPhone right now because her phone is not working so well. And I can afford it, but I'm not going to buy it because I feel like she should understand that there's a value placed on every item in the house. And the way you spend your money matters, right? So I want her to have a good relationship with money. I don't want her to think that money is something is just disposable, right? So I want to put that work ethic behind it. Like, what are you gonna do to work for it? And I feel like when people work for their money and grasp that concept, then we tend to cherish it more and we tend to understand how to use it, right? So I also introduced her to the idea of a credit card last week. And I said, hey, we've been using a green light credit card. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But the green light credit card is really great. If the kids do any chores around the home, you send them money like through the app, and that's how she spends her money. But it's like a debit card. So me being me, I'm like, I want to start off on credit card. But she told me no. She said, I don't think I can handle a credit card right now. Does that mean I'm gonna have a lot of money and I just have no control? And I said, yeah. And she said, no, I'm not ready for it. And I respected her answer, but I still want to push the limit to get her to understand that responsibility. So she's 13, and that's the conversations we're having. The 7-year-old, she also understands that $5 in your world may be a lot of money, but what does that really mean? What do you do when you get an item that you paid for $5? How do you treat it? So those are the conversations I'm having. But I do think from formally, the school should at least start teaching this in middle school, so a lot of the students could understand, like, money is definitely important, and it's not something that they should just think it just comes without being earned. That's just my
I
personal
totally
views,
agree.
though.
No, I think what you're doing is great because I remember when I moved into my first apartment, I was like in my mid 20s. And I remember telling someone, I found out then that food doesn't just fly into the refrigerator. And, it's like you have to pay a light bill. I mean, living with my mom, I was really spoiled and I took a lot for granted. And I wish now, looking back, that I had learned about these things earlier in life. So, you made an excellent point with that.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to couples about handling their finances?
Be honest. That's the first thing. I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to finances, there's always like one person might feel that they're better than the other. Be honest on your strength. If one person is better than the other, it's okay to accept that and accept that help, but also just be honest about what you're bringing to the table. I feel like it's still a conversation with pride in our community, where a lot of people, if they're not making a lot, it's not something they want to be honest about, right?
Right.
Just to be funny, that conversation, I don't know if you saw it on social media going around about the young lady that guy was going to take, I think, to Applebee's or something like that, or
Oh, yeah,
Cheesecake
yeah, yeah. The
Factory.
Cheesecake
um
Factory. Yeah,
that would have been a perfect time to have a conversation about finances. Just because someone taking to a certain statue of restaurant doesn't mean that that's what their pocket, you know what I mean? So like,
exactly.
you see a lot of red flags in the beginning. Just be honest, have those open conversations, because it has to be both. Like, you cannot do this separately. If you're going to go into an entity where you want to eventually buy properties together, you raise a child together, the money has to be commingled. So I think in the very beginning, honesty is definitely one of the things that people should be comfortable with, and take away that pride, because we're all coming to the table with something, and it needs to be known.
If the relationship is getting serious, um, would you suggest like credit checks and stuff like this on your potential spouse
That's
or whatever? I
that's the
mean,
first
an
question you
extra,
should ask,
yeah.
right? What's your
Okay.
credit score? No, I'm just playing, but yeah, definitely, because like I said, a lot of people are coming in with different baggages. Some people, what I've seen from the industry so far is that most male are not really privy or aware about credit, because they either use their sisters and moms, like they've used some kind of female's credit in their past before. So a lot of males come to me and they're like, listen, I only use cash, I don't use credit. So if that's the situation, that conversation needs to be had, because you don't want to be where it's at now. You want to buy a house, and that's when you find out your spouse don't even have a credit score, or have never used credit cards. That's not the time to find that out. So I think it should be done very early.
Right. Because you know what? I think it's, you know, for me as a woman, I would not want to be invested emotionally in an individual only to find out that all that he said is not so.
Right?
Because then it's like, I think a lot of people, I won't say it's just women, but once emotionally invested, they don't want to walk away. And it just opens up a can of worms
Yeah, and
because
it caused
we know it's not going
arguments.
to end well.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But I don't think people are comfortable having that conversation early. You know what I mean? Because they feel like they're prying in somebody's business. I don't know how to fix that, but it's just something we got to get more comfortable. It's too taboo. It's too
Right,
taboo.
and I think, hello Irene, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, not because I think we should have conversations like this with our teenagers, with our early 20s, children, to make sure they understand what they're getting into, because like that whole Cheesecake Factory thing the other day, that created a lot of dialogue. And I think these are the things that we need to talk about, because at the end of the day, I think there's nothing worse than getting into a situation with someone where, for instance, you are very, you take care of your finances, you pay your bills on time, and then you find out that the person you're involved with is not the same.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
I think it
that
causes
is
a lot
true.
of conflict. So I think we have to stop burying our heads in the sand and have that uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, how do we start, right? I feel like culturally we're not there yet, but it does need to be conversations that maybe not the first date, but like
No.
eventually,
No,
if you
because
see things are
when you
getting
see that
serious.
it's becoming serious, if
Mm-hmm.
it's just a casual thing, then I don't think it's my business to go too deep. But I think if it's going to be serious, then I think it's something that I need to know. Like I heard Viola Davis talk about when her and her husband, now husband, decided that they wanted to be serious, that she started crying and she told him, I have really bad credit. I have bad credit. And he said to her, don't worry, my credit is good enough for both of us.
Oh
But she
wow, I
was
didn't hear
honest
that
with him in
story.
the beginning. Yeah, I'll see if I can find that
Yeah,
for
that's
you and send it
cool.
to you. But look at how successful she is now. So I'm not saying it should be a deal breaker, but I think honesty should really, you
Yes,
know, come to the surface in the very beginning.
it
Because
has
if
to.
a person won't be honest in the beginning, what do they have in store for you later on? I think it's really something to think about.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Carol said, I agree. It should be taught in school. Most definitely. Sherry, and I think I said it to you the last
Yes, you
time.
did.
I think you should put a workshop together. I really do. I think you should put a workshop together for like church seminars or for schools. I think you would do well. I mean, I attended one of your workshops.
Yes.
My son did too. And he said, Mom, I learned a lot. I really think you should put that together.
Yes. You're gonna hold me accountable again because
I
that's important.
definitely will. I definitely, because I think it would be a good thing, because the when you did the workshop, there were a lot
Mhm.
of things that you shared that I honestly did not know, and I wish I'd known these things sooner. So I
I
think it's
know.
really important. So put that together.
I will. I will. It's gonna be on my 2024 bucket list. It is.
Definitely, definitely. So what services does your business offer?
Wow. So one of the things that we offer is credit repair, right? So just to explain to those who are listening what credit repair is. Credit repair is focuses on the negative of the credit report. So if you have any collections, bankruptcy, repossession, a lot of inquiries, anything that is outstanding on your report, you want to be able to challenge those. So with a company like ours, we help you challenge those negative items. Now, individually, when you work with me as well, it is this, I believe in credit education, as you've seen from that workshop. So
Yes.
credit comes down to two things. It basically comes down to removing the negative and adding positives. And everything that I do is very positive, right? So I'm going to help you rebuild that credit. And not only the financial part of it, but just that confidence that we talked about. Like a lot of
Yes.
times people, it's a very emotional process because like I said in the beginning, the score is going to go up and down. It's never stagnant. And a lot of times, unfortunately, people associate negative feelings when their score drops. But sometimes if you just understood why it drops, you can work on those feelings, right? A lot of times your score is going to drop because you used a lot on your credit card one month, or maybe you got to make a late payment, something like that. But if you can identify what's going on with your credit report, I feel like it will put you more in control. So that's one of the services we offer is the credit repair. We also, for personal credit, we also offer business credit, which a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs are looking to separate their personal from their business. So they're looking to now obtain not only credit for themselves, but credit for whatever business that they have, right? And what that's going to do is it's also going to lead and open a way to ultimately get business funding. So we offer those three services to any client. Most of our clients are entrepreneurs, but we always stress that, that personal credit, no matter what, is the foundation to everything I just mentioned. You've got to have good personal credit in order to get business credit and to seem credible and bankable to the bank to give you business funding.
Okay, thank you for that answer.
You're
Hello,
welcome.
Maxine. Thank you so much for joining us. So that leads to my next question. For someone who is starting over, how would you help them to get their finances in order?
Okay, so again, a lot of times it's really just getting that mindset. You've been seeing me post a lot on Facebook. It's not so much. You got to be ready to do this. It's a commitment. It's not an overnight process. It's a process that's going to take time. So anybody that's looking to repair their credit, they have to be ready to actually do the work, right? So yes, we will take care of removing negative items on your behalf, but you also have to be prepared to rebuild that credit and also to just be an active participant in the process. One of the steps that happens is once we send dispute letters out, the client is responsible for now sending back the responsive that they may get from a credit bureau. If you don't send those responses back, it creates a gap in the process. So a lot of times people are just not ready to take on some of the ownership that they have to with the process. So helping you rebuild your credit, as long as the person is willing and able and ready mentally to do it, we have a game plan for you. Every client gets a game plan, but they have to be ready to do the work. They have to be ready to commit to that game plan as well. But it's a very simple process. A lot of us overthink it. Like I said just a while ago, it's working on removing any negatives that you may have, which includes late payments, collections, bankruptcy, student loan with late payments, student loans that may be in default, foreclosures, anything that's negative. That's what we work on. But at the same time, think about the credit score like this. If we worked on removing all that negative, we stripped your credit apart. There's nothing there left. So now you need to work on rebuilding it. So working on adding some positive trade lines to those credit is also something we'll do. So it takes that special client who's ready.
I'd like to welcome Dorcia Reed. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Would you say this process is an emotional process?
It is. It's very much so emotional. Once your head is in the right headspace to start, it can continue and be well. But a lot of times people are just looking for a quick fix. They're looking to get that score above 700 or whatever the physical goal is. But it's going to take more than just that because, like I said, it could get to a 700 today on November 19th, and in December 19th, it'll be back at a 580. So you really have to learn the ins and out of what it takes to maintain that credit. So yes, it could be an emotional process because people are fixated on the number. They're fixated more than on the number than anything. It's like anything else you do, right? So let's
Yes.
just use the analogy of losing weight. It's the same thing. Like you can want to lose 20 pounds, lose that 20 pounds, but if you start eating bad again, yes, you're going to gain back weight. So it's the same concept. Anything that you do, there has to be consistency, there has to be dedication, there has to be some kind of like your mindset has to be right. It just has to be right.
I definitely
It's
agree
no
with you
different.
on that. Andrew wants to know, do you teach clients how to budget?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do teach clients how to budget. That's one of the issue. A lot of times, people have bad credit because they just have bad money management. So yes, I've had clients reach back out to me and say, "Hey, kind of what we spoke about earlier. I stopped doing my nails. I stopped doing my hair, and now I'm able to
Mhm.
put this money towards this bill or this goal." So yes, it's not only just with budgeting. It's like how can we revert the money that's coming in and
Yes,
how can you keep most of it instead of keep liquidating most of it out. So yes, Andrew, we do
right.
work with budgeting as well.
Okay, yeah, Andrew was saying financial literacy is important. Yes, it is.
It's
Yes,
so
it is.
important, and it's it's
Yes, it
it's
is.
so it's so far gone. It's like no one understands it. Like even me, I'm constantly learning. It is something that
Yes,
there's a world of finance that we haven't even tapped into, and a lot of it we just weren't privy to as a culture. I want to say our
yes,
other counterparts are like there's other people because it's been passed down through their generational wealth. These are
yes.
conversations that I had at the dinner table with other cultures that we just don't have because we didn't have the
True.
knowledge.
True. It's true. Like living in this country, you really do need to have an understanding of credit, credit worthiness, because it's like to get an apartment,
Everything.
there are certain things that you just can't do if you don't have good credit. So it's really something important to think about. How important is it to be patient in the process of rebuilding credit? I know I'm a very impatient person, but I get it that with some things you have to walk the walk, and sometimes the walk isn't pretty. It's not pleasant, but you have to do it. What would you say about that?
Same thing. You got to be extremely patient. A lot of people don't see results because they're not patient. Like I said, they're used to this microwavable instant, our society is like that these days where you put stuff in YouTube and you get the answer, right? Credit repair is going to take time. If you think about the what you're bringing into this. For example, someone with bankruptcy, it had to take some time to get to you to get to that point where bankruptcy was the answer. Probably took a couple years or maybe like a tragic situation, something, but it took time. So why is it that we cannot be patient to give at least half that time back to fixing something? Right? So
True.
it's going to take time. Like it does take time to repair your credit. We like to tell our clients 6 months, at least 4 to 6 months, which doesn't seem like a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. But for some clients, it could take up to a year. And unfortunately, most people sometimes are like, I want to buy a house tomorrow. And I'm like, it don't even work that way. Even the house buying process takes time. So a lot
Yes.
of times, patience is going to be key. You have to give yourself room for errors, room for growth, room for whatever is going to happen with the process. It's going to be up and down. But I promise you, if you're consistent and you give it time, you're going to see tremendous results. My clients who are serious, my clients who they basically they took that workshop. I have a young lady, I just have to speak on her. She
Hmm.
took one of my workshop, just one of my workshop. She had a few negative items. It wasn't terrible. And I spoke to her January of last year. And she said to me, I want to buy a house in 6 months. And I said, okay, that's realistic. It's a little close, but it's definitely realistic. And I maybe spoke to her 4 or 5 times between January and June. And in July, she texted me and she sent me pictures of the house. She bought
Oh,
her house.
wow.
But if you knew what took place between January and June, you would be surprised. She was focused. She said, I stopped doing my hair. I saved everything. I said no to every invitation I got. I worked overtime. And she just was tunnel vision, locked in on her goals and knew exactly what she wanted. And she brought her home. And she said every time she made a decision, she said, I didn't want to bother you. I took copious notes when we did our workshop. She took copious notes and she just went back to the notes. She said, only if I really felt stuck, I would contact you and ask you
Right.
a question. But she did it. But that was the mindset. She already made up her mind that she was going to do that. So
So we know the process works. We just have to
process
do our
works.
part.
Process works. It you just got to be ready. Got to be
I have
ready.
to ask you this. Should we and do you counsel people about having an emergency plan? Because sometimes things happen. You know, the other day I read an article about a gentleman in New York, a guy from Jamaica, as a matter of fact. And they
I
said that he killed a couple tenants and killed a girlfriend. I don't know if you read about
didn't
that.
hear that one.
But
No.
yeah, apparently he was renting a couple properties out to them and they weren't paying their rent from the whole COVID thing. And I guess he just got frustrated because he wasn't receiving his money.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I
this
think I
happened
heard of it.
last,
I didn't know it end that way. Oh
yeah.
wow.
So the thing is for a person in his situation, because to me, if you own a home and you're renting it out, sounds like you did the right thing. You did the right thing on your end, but at the end of the day, he had mortgages to pay and he didn't have his rent coming in. Is there something that a person can do if they're in a situation like that? Is there any resources of any kind to help a person in a situation like that?
Unfortunately, that COVID situation messed up a lot of people. And New York is one of those states where we are very friendly when it comes to the tenants, right? So it's tenant friendly state. Eviction is like a joke here, right?
Yes.
People could stay in your property for years. There's a lot of people in that predicament. So that's one of the downfalls to actually being a landlord in New York. But I'm pretty sure some type of emergency loan or something could have been if he went out and seek those resources. Again, it's going to go back to that word pride. A lot of times
Yes.
we don't think about it because it's like you felt like you're in a position where you already put yourself in a position to gain and now you have to go beg somebody for money, right? So we don't think of it, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know specifically offhand if there is, but I'm pretty sure there's like some type of emergency loan or maybe reaching out to his I know they were still being very lenient with the payments, where maybe they could put it on the back end or something. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's how it is in New York. And I don't know if there was any other resources he could have used. That's a very sad story. That's very
That,
sad.
I mean, that really is. And in fact, I meant to send you that video. But I think it goes back to responsibility, because at the end of the day, if you owe rent, and it's like if you didn't pay 1 month's rent,
Mm-mm.
and then it's 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, how will
Years.
you be able to pay that? So at the end of the day, you're meaning not to pay that rent.
Yeah.
I think a decision is made at some point that, what, if I can beat the system, that's what I plan to do. And I think it's unfair to the hardworking individuals
Yeah, a
who
lot of people do that
invested,
here.
yeah. Yeah, Mikey said here, tenants and squatters seem to have more rights than landlords. And that is very unfortunate,
It is.
because unfortunately, I think for those who try to do the right thing, like, rents are ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, here in Florida, it's like the wages don't match the income,
Nope.
and it is like, it is not easy. So I think that it comes back to bite those who are really trying to do the right thing, the landlords and those who are choosing to pay.
Yeah, that's so sad though.
Yeah, it all comes down to responsibility. And I think, you know, and what I'm learning now, there are people like you that I can turn to if I need that guidance and that advice to get me back on track. So
But I
that's what
think
I'm,
to answer your question, because I think what you were asking me is like the emergency plan. They
yeah,
always say to have maybe like 6 months of, rent money saved up, or just in general, like what does it cost to your monthly bills? Have 6 months of that saved up for emergency, for anything. Anything could happen. But a
yeah.
lot of times people run through that money as well, and like you said, it could be years that they're not paying their rent. So I don't know.
Wow. So I think, and what I'll put out there to the viewers is like, if you don't have that saved up, I know I don't, but I
Mhm.
know I recently just made the decision that there were things that I was just gonna stop. Like, I dropped my Netflix, I dropped my Hulu, I dropped several other services. I had to ask myself, can I live without these services?
Yes,
Do I
you can.
really need them? And it was like, oh, I've had them for years, but it was like, you know what? I can do without them. And then the big thing for me was not going to get my nails done. Now that one, I'm not lying to you. It's like, I love getting my nails done. But I was like, for right now, I can do without that. It's
Mhm.
about making choices.
Sacrifices. Yep. Yeah.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So I have to ask you this: should finances be a family affair? And when I say a family affair, do you believe that families should come together? And I'm not saying you tell the children, oh, we're in dire straits and it's rough, but to be honest with everyone in the family, so everyone can play a role
Mhm.
in working together, knowing that, hey, we may have to budget here, we may have to cut back, maybe we can't go out to eat every
Mhm.
week, you
Mhm.
know. So is should it be a family affair?
Yes, I'm West Indian, so it's like I'm always telling my kids, like, even if I'm not poor, I'm gonna make it seem like I'm poor. Like I'm always like, you know, you're gonna. They have to understand. Like I started out before, like there's a value to everything, and money just doesn't grow on tree, and you have to work for it. Like I'm big on what are you gonna do to obtain this, right? You're not just gonna go out spending money and not understanding the value of it. So yes, I believe it should be a family affair. If we had more discussions about it, if we talked about it openly as a family, I feel like the expectations wouldn't be so high. As you can see, the holiday season is coming up, and all these people are breaking their necks to make sure those Christmas
Yes,
trees are so filled. And yes, it looks good in pictures, but what are you really teaching someone? I'm
that is
very
true.
big on passing down gifts that are going to be meaningful, to the point where, like, even at my baby shower, I was like, don't bring me any cards, bring a book instead. It always had to be like, bring a book for the baby so I can use it. How can we use these things? So if you
So
don't have the money.
for
Yes.
Christmas, I'm glad you. What would you say to those who they know in their hearts that they don't have the money for an elaborate Christmas? what advice would you give to
give
these families?
give love. Give love. Give love, give time. I feel like kids appreciate that more than anything. A lot of things that we do today, let's be honest, is for social media. You want to do that quick 30-second story in your story on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Be private. Give love with your kids. They're going to remember it. If you can afford to give an experience, maybe take them to a show or something else, that is just as important as a physical gift. Now, there's also cheap gifts. You know what I mean? You don't
Yes.
have, I mean, I don't know how this is going to work for every family because I try not to let my kids be attached to name brands or
And that's
anything
the
like
right
that.
thing.
Yeah, so for me, if my kids already know I'm very frugal, like we're shopping, we're using coupons. I don't care. I don't care how much money I have. Coupons will always be a thing I'm going to do. So my kids already know that. So it wouldn't be hard. Like if this Christmas is like I'm like pulling back, like we're not just gonna do it wouldn't be hard. But I know for some families, they're diehard. They go and they gotta get the name brands and stuff like that. They're gonna have a really heart to heart with themselves before they have that conversation with their kids because it's some people are going to struggle with it because they just feel like it's systematic, it's generational. They feel like I didn't have it as a kid growing up, so I want to make sure my kids have more than I had, right? So that's why a lot of people over provide during Christmas because it's like I
Yes.
remember not having during Christmas and I don't want that for my kids. But sometimes you really have to look at your reality. If your goal is to get a house by next year, how about let's make that the goal. Like I love those pictures of those empty houses. You got the house and there's no furniture in it. I love that. And those are like the best feelings. Like when
Yes.
you move into a home, you don't know where your toothbrush is, you don't know where anything is, but you got each other and you got love and you have that new goal that you got, like that you wanted, that you obtained.
Yes.
I feel like those things are more important, but it's gonna be hard for a lot of people. I really don't know what to suggest, but I know for me it wouldn't be hard because I've always built that. I always talked about finance and just letting my kids know it's not just gonna come because you want it. I love to reward.
I like how you said that. It's not going to come just because you want it.
Yeah, and I like to surprise. So it may not come for Christmas, but maybe it'll come for February. Who knows? Like it should just come unexpected. Like I don't feel like kids should expect things. It's nice to get it. But I don't think you should expect it. So I
I
always
agree with you. I
yeah.
agree with you. I think that unfortunately there's that sense of entitlement.
Oh, I
And,
hate it.
when I was growing up, I remember telling my daughter when I was growing up in England, like we would usually get like maybe two Christmas presents. And she looked at me in shock. And I told her, and those are very happy memories.
Yes.
I remember the last Christmas when my parents were still together, I got the book Treasure Island and I got an umbrella and I was happy. I was happy. And my daughter looked at me in shock and she said, I wouldn't tell that story to anyone. But it was the truth. And I was happy and I appreciated those gifts. Like to get a book when I was growing up was a big deal.
Yeah.
I love to read. But in
Today's
today's world, I
society.
can't imagine too many kids being happy to get a book,
No, they need the
but I
latest electronics, the latest sneakers, the latest this, the latest that. And it's hard because it's like socially, you don't want your kids to feel left out as well.
of
But I
course
think
not.
that's why
Yeah.
it's important to have these conversations early and build that self-esteem in your kids so that they know that this your value is not determined by what you wear and what you have. It is not.
Yes.
But
I
that's something that
totally
we have to
agree.
start it early. It's gonna be hard for somebody
Definitely.
to just shift that in one Christmas. I'll break
That's that that is the truth. That is the truth. But I think, I remember once watching a documentary and I heard I think his name is Allen Iverson. I'm not a big basketball fan.
basketball fan.
But he talked about his mom. He was playing in a tournament and he wanted a pair of Jordans and his mom had to pay the light bill. But
Yeah.
his mom made the decision to buy him the Jordans and their lights were disconnected. And I remember thinking, like, there's no way in the world my mother would have done anything like that. Like, priorities. Like, I would have been upset to be his sibling. No, we don't have electricity, but he has these nice new sneakers. I think we have to have our priorities in
Yeah.
order.
That's a good example.
Yes, definitely. Because what are we teaching our kids at the end of the day? Andrew said, "Speak in truth." Yeah, and that's the thing. Hi, Cedric. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we have to have these conversations with our children. Like I said, we don't have to go into the where the kids will
Yeah.
be stressed out and worried, where's our next meal coming from. But I think they have to learn, like, we all have to work together as a family. Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much for joining us. I think kids need to understand and know the reality, because I think there are so many parents who are stressed out because they don't have enough money coming in, but they're trying to,
Make it.
please their kids with stuff that they honestly can't afford,
Yeah.
what frustrates you the most in your business?
Um, People who are looking for overnight results and um just like I always use the analogy that I feel like I want it more for my clients and they want it for themselves sometimes. So just, people just not being consistent. I would get a lot more results if people just stayed the course, like we mentioned, being patient and being consistent. Other than that, it's like, you get people who are excited, they're ready to go, they're ready to start. They got to be committed to the process. So
I'm
just,
glad I'm glad I I do personal training, and that's one of the things I've told my clients, like, you have to be committed to the process. You have to trust the process and you have to be committed to it, because if you're not, you won't get the results that you're looking for. It won't come overnight,
yes.
but you have to do your part.
Yeah.
And like, I can't want it for you more than you do. And
There
I
you
have
go.
found the clients who are successful are the ones who are committed to the process. And they're the ones who don't question me and try to tell me how it should be done. It's like they're trusting me to guide them. No, I can't do it for them, but they trust my guidance. Those are the ones who are
Exactly.
successful every time.
It's the same thing here with credit. It's no different. No different. I feel like every business is the same. Like you just have to trust the process, like you said. The process
Yes.
works. It's worked for millions of other people. It will work for you, but you got to believe in it. You got to trust it.
And it may feel uncomfortable. You may feel as if, you know what, I'm not making any progress, but that's when you really have to dig down deep. You may think, oh my gosh, I haven't been out to dinner in a while. I want to,
Mm-hmm.
max out my cards to take a trip. But sometimes you just have to, like I'm telling you, it's like the temptation has been there to go and get my nails done. But it's like, no, not going to do it, because it's like
Because once you
every two
start, you're
weeks.
going to continue.
Right, I'll continue. And it's like, no, it's not the end of the world. There's that part of me, the vain side of me, that kicks in, like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to look at my hands. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's not worth it to me right now. So sometimes we do have to make sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's definitely one I
I'm not
didn't
a
want
nail
to.
person. I've never been a nail person, so I don't have that issue.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
always washing dishes, and I feel like
Yeah.
getting my nails done is always such a waste of money because they break or so
Yeah.
I don't have that one. So, but I heard a lot of women and the nail
Yeah.
prices they went up. Like it's so
Oh yeah, it's
expensive.
it's really it's really
Hmm.
expensive now, and that was the reason why I stopped, because I was like, you know what, it's just too much. So I promised myself I will learn how to do my own, teach myself to do my own. It's
And
not
you
been working
can,
out, but I'll keep practicing.
you
I'll
can.
definitely have to keep practicing. Yeah, Diane is saying, she said expensive. Yes, it is, Diane. It is
Yeah,
very
I remember when a
expensive.
full set used to be like $20,
Yeah,
right?
nothing like that. Not even,
I'm hearing
not even
hundreds
to
of
get
dollars
just
now.
to
I'm
get the
like,
polish
why?
on. Yeah, it's ridiculous now.
But is
It's
it the supplies went up? Like, what's the reason? It's just that more
That's
people
what
doing
I
it.
don't understand. It was like out of the blue. It just got so ridiculous. And there are so many videos on YouTube, as you were mentioning. Go to YouTube. There are so
Hmm.
many videos now that are teaching you how to do your own nails. And
Exactly.
everyone is saying the same thing. It's just too expensive and it's just not worth it anymore. So
Yeah, if
yeah,
you're
it's
going
like
out
we
on
just,
a nice occasion, I say treat yourself. If you're going out, like if you have a wedding or something to go to, then treat yourself. But I don't think
Yeah, yeah,
every that
it's not.
routine every 2 weeks. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
it's too much. Like Diane says, 40 now in Louisiana for the Joe set. Yeah, Diane, it's it's expensive, and to do that like every 2 weeks, and that think about it, that's just your hands. What about your feet? What
Feet,
about so the manicure is one thing, the pedicure is
pedicure is
another.
another.
Yeah, you add your hair to the mix. Like, thank God I do my own hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because if I was to pay to get my hair done, that's another
A lot.
expense. Yeah. So it's like that was something years ago I decided I would just have to learn to do it myself. So there are
Good.
some things that we can do for ourselves. I mean,
Yes.
I think if we can learn a new skill, I think that's the best way to do it. She said on the feet they are 35. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's about
that's
right.
a lot of money. That's a lot of money for every 2 weeks.
That's
So
about right.
it's definitely not worth it. So I have to ask you this. What role, so this is what we've been talking about. What role do our choices play in our finances?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. Um, like I said before, I'm a coupon user. Like if I could save money, why not? Like they have it there for a reason. Like so your choices is going to, you know how they say your thought impact your behavior. It's the same thing. Your choices are going to impact everything that you do. So if you choose
Yes.
to max out your credit card, then you choose to be irresponsible, right? And if you choose to not pay your bills on time, then you're choosing to be irresponsible. Everything you do in life is a choice. Now, sometimes we forget things or we don't have a system or, it's just life happens. You get really busy and you just forget to pay a bill here and there. That's a genuine mistake. But to do it over and over and over again, that's habitual. And it's no longer a
Yes.
choice. It's just something you're choosing to do. It's a habit and it's a
Yes.
bad habit. And you got to learn to break those bad habits. And until you do, nothing's going to change. Even if you work
Nothing
with
will
me,
change. Nothing will
even if you work
change.
with me, you could work with the best person in the planet. It's not going to change until you decide to
You
change.
change your habits. Nicole Robertson said it's $40 to $60 here in Michigan. Oh my gosh. So
Oh
yeah,
my
it's really
God.
it's really expensive. So what would you say to those who have the bad habits? Like I always talk to my clients about journaling. Like if you journal about the foods you're eating, maybe you can write about why you're eating the things that you're eating. Maybe you're doing some comfort eating,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like if the scale is going up or down, you have a reference to go back to see. Like I can tell you, like for me, since COVID, I've gained a lot of weight. I would say about 3 years ago, I was wearing a size 2. And then it was
Wow.
like I had gotten rid of a lot of habits. And then when COVID kicked in, it was like, stop going out, stop doing it, stop doing fun things and just
Yeah.
got in the habit of staying home. Next thing I know, I'm back to eating the candy. I'm back to doing the comfort eating that I had stopped. So it's like, I know what I'm doing. So, but it's like, I have to make that choice. I have to decide to, well, you know what? I'm sick of doing this and it's time to stop. So that's why, because I had lost a lot of weight before, I was able to relate to my clients so well. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that made me a really good trainer because I could relate to them, but I never went in with the mindset like, look at me, I'm this and that. No, I learned to meet a person where they are. So, like with you, with what you do, if you see that a person is really struggling in the process, what words of encouragement do you offer them, or have you ever gotten to the point where you're so frustrated it's like I can't work with you anymore?
No, unfortunately, my heart is too big. I usually really do try to work with a lot of people regardless of what they're going through. um a lot of times, it's sending words of encouragement, something that has nothing to do with finances. Sometimes just letting them know that you care. And anybody that's watching on Facebook that are my followers, you guys know, like, even if you're not my client, even from being in my group or just being on my Facebook, you see that I'm very inspirational. I'm going to always try to pour into you. It's just something I do naturally. um I want everybody to win. At the end of the day, I will always hold you accountable. I remember one of the questions I ask when I do my consultation is, what is your goal, right? Like, what are you trying to accomplish from fixing your credit? Most times people just want to buy a house, they want to get a car. A lot of people just really need a vehicle. They live in states where they need to transport back and forth. And if I see them falling off or something's not working, I will always remind them of their goals. Because I
Yes.
always feel like if you have somebody that can hold you accountable, or even just like I said, remind you of that goal of why you started or why you even initiated to start the process, sometimes it helps. Sometimes it helps. Now we know sometimes it's just too deep. A lot of people are going through
Yes.
mental issues, depression is real, and it's hard to pull them out. Just but giving them that space too and letting them know. Like I've had clients who I've had a year ago and they stop and they're like, now I'm ready to get back serious.
Yes.
So it's unbelievable. Like I've been doing this for 3 years and 50% of my clients are repeat clients. But that's one of the habits and goals that I want to stop. I want that a client that comes through me to stop and be done because they've learned not only to fix their credit, not only credit education, they've learned to take control of their life, right?
Yes.
It's deeper than just like I said, that credit score. It really is because once you get your finances in order, your mentals in order, anything is possible.
I agree.
Anything is possible. You can obtain any goals that you have. But again, it starts with that person. It starts within. I can want it. I do want it. I want it so bad. But that individual has to want it more than I do.
That is so true. Dorcia said, oh, Dorcia, I've been training her, so she said to me, "You're a great trainer." Well, Dorcia, I can say you're a great client because you put in the work. You don't try to dictate the process. Whatever I ask you to do, you do it, and you hold yourself accountable, and you're getting the results. So that's the thing. As long as you do your part, it's a win-win. If it's a client is working, with the person that they're, with who they're working with. You have to work together, you
So
know?
like she sounds like she's teachable.
Yes, she is. And that's the beautiful thing. What I like about, because I've had clients in the past where, and it was one of the reasons why I gave up training, because I had a lot of people, it was like, oh, I'm missing this session, so I'm not going to pay you.
Oh
And
wow.
it's like if you're living in a home, if you're paying a mortgage or a rent, if you go on vacation, you still have to pay. Right? That's how it works. So then I stopped. But then when I started again, Dorcia is one of those that, and I've had a few more who they were, if they miss a session, they're still paying me. They respect me, they respect the process, so that encouraged me as a trainer. It made me want to continue to work with them, and it renewed the love that I have for the process. And what it's doing for me, it's actually kind of pushing me back into wanting this for myself, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like yourself, I want my clients to win, I want them to do well. So it's like, it's like, but I have to, because in the beginning I felt just like you. Your score backs up what you're teaching. You
Mm-hmm.
have the score. Like for me, I did look like a personal trainer a few years ago. And it's like, girl, you have to get back to that point. Those
Yes.
who know you, they know what you bring to the table. But it's like for those who don't know me, then it's like, hey, I have to do my part as the trainer too. So it's like
It's
I'm
accountability for
learning.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like when you work with the clients to the point where you're even learning from your clients, you
Yes.
know. I think that's a beautiful thing. Now, Nicole is saying, I appreciate Sherry because I am learning now how to balance my finances. And that is so important. That's what Andrew talked about earlier about budgeting. So I have to ask you this, Sherry. Do you have a flyer where you have all of your services listed?
Yes, I do. And I'll definitely share that with you later on. But yes. You guys, I have a website. I'm going to drop everything once we're done on the Facebook under this
Okay.
live. Like I said, we offer personal credit, where that means getting your personal credit right. Also, business credit. If you're an entrepreneur, you have any kind of business and you're looking to obtain business credit. What is business credit? That's basically credit on the business side where you're obtaining credit for your business. So if you have an LLC, S corp, whatever kind of business you have, you need to establish that business credit separate from your personal credit. And if you're looking for business funding, so if you're a small business owner and you're looking to scale your business. I get a lot of people who want to start like a food truck industry and they don't have a food truck. So if you're looking to purchase that food truck, you don't want to take money from, and what we found is that a lot of people have done this. They've used their personal credit. they've used credit cards that they have limits on, maybe 20,000, to now fund their business. And then as a result, their credit gets messed up because the business didn't generate enough income to help pay off that credit card. So you don't want to do that. What you want to do is separate that stuff. You want to definitely have your personal finances and your business finances separate. So if you're looking for business funding, it'll be very ideal for you to have a great business score. So we also have that product as well. So those are the three services that we offer. Looking for clients who are serious, who are go-getters, who are mentally ready, also financially ready, because it is a paid service. The credit repair is $147 a month. Sounds like a lot, but in comparison to the growth for you and your credit and what it can do for you and what you can turn that into, if anybody understands credit on this line, you can get a credit line of $45,000. So, $147 compared to what it can do for your life to help you buy a house is nothing, right? And
Well,
we've
think
just
about how many times we throw away more than that. And so
on
no,
our nails.
I totally get it. So now for the business credit, because for those who are seeking business credit, do you sit them down and explain to them the whole process? And
Oh yeah, we
okay,
do. And we have a software that does that as well. So we have two products. We have one where you can, if you're that person, you feel like you're a little bit more savvy and you want a DIY where you do it yourself, or do you want a personal coach? Do you want us to coach you on it? That's going to cost a lot more money. But yes, we will take you step by step to tell you about the different tiers in the business credit. There's a lot to business credit that a lot of people don't know. So we have a survey that you fill out, and once you complete that survey, it will basically tell us what position you're in and how we can work with you. But it's an awesome program. It's not a lot in the business industry that is out there that's helping people with their business credit.
Diane is asking, what's the turnaround time on credit repair?
It depends. One turnaround is when you start, because a lot of people want to know and they don't get started. But it depends on your credit, but on average 6 months. On average, I'm going to
Okay.
say got to give the process at least 6 months on
And you
average.
said, and you did say earlier, in order to seek business credit, you had to have a good personal credit score.
It is ideal.
Okay.
It is ideal.
Okay.
Hmm.
So let me ask you this. If a person, like, they've established business credit and they've started, like, business is not doing as well as they anticipated, um, is there any advice that you usually give to them to help them turn it around?
Well, a lot of times that is also based on like your marketing strategies and depending on what business you're in, right? That's why it's also important to have a strong, sound business plan. That is the key. And a lot of people skip that part, right? So a lot of people jump straight into, oh, I got an LLC, I got an EIN. But what is your business plan? And then that's another thing that we caution you on too. So a lot of people want to seek business funding, but I would tell you, if you don't have a set foundation business plan on how you're going to obtain that money to pay back the funding, because these are not grants. There's a
Right.
difference between grants and loan. It's a loan. And a lot of times when you get these funding, they expect you to pay it back within a week, right? Not the whole thing, but at least start making payments in a week. So if you don't have a set business plan where you can say, okay, I'm going to generate this amount of income by this amount of date to pay this bill back, then you're also not ready for business funding. So a lot of people are doing things prematurely, or they're just doing things because it sounds good. But a business plan, as you would know as a businesswoman, Bree, is still the foundation of everything that you do. You got to have a sound business plan. And that's one of the things we can help you with as well.
Okay. So please let the viewers know how to sign up for your services if they're interested.
So if you're interested, contact me via DM so I could do a consultation. I like to do a quick text consultation. If you wanted more, we can do a phone consultation. My calendar. If you guys go on my Facebook, you will see a link for my link tree. And in my link tree, you can see where you can make an appointment for a consultation. I don't like to sign anybody up unless I speak to them, just to make sure it's the right relationship, person is serious. And but the link to get started is also on my link tree. But like I said, consultation is highly recommended because, like the question I think Diane asked before, how long does it take? Every client is going to be different, right? So for one client, they may get results in 30 days. So, and that's phenomenal, but that doesn't mean that that's what it's going to look like for you. So we like to do a consultation so that we can see how our services match your needs and if you qualify. And if you do, we can get started right away. But there's a link in my Facebook bio.
Okay, and if you don't mind, share the link on my Facebook
I
page if you
will.
don't
I will
mind.
share the link
Okay.
tree.
Yes. And I have to share with everyone, like Sherry, I happened to see one of her videos on, I think it was on YouTube or something like that, but it was about a year ago. And I just liked the presentation. And I've seen a lot of different people who do what you do on Facebook, but sometimes the advice is not like accurate, or you can tell it's like a scam. So it's like after dealing with you, I was like, I asked you back because you consistently post, and you're always giving legit information. You're the real deal. And
Oh, thank you.
I want the viewers to hear me say that, because I've had her twice. I wouldn't have her on twice talking about finances if I didn't think she was real. I've had some bad experiences with people because most of my guests are people that I actually know. But Sherry is one, like I said, I met her through a Facebook friend. And, it's like we've spoken and I've dealt with her. And like I said, I wouldn't have her back on if I didn't think she was the real deal.
Thank you, Bree. And I appreciate
I
you
had to,
having me.
oh, and as I asked you before the show even started, I asked her to come back. So
I will. We got to spread this word. We got to spread it. I love your questions, keeping the family involved, because that's definitely important. One of our
yes,
mission, the name of our company is Infinite Freedom, and one of our mission is to have infinite wealth just passed down to generation. It's not, like I said, it's not just about like the immediate services that we have. It's
yes,
really about group economics, right? One of the things we want to strive for is to have everyone understanding how to take over this movement, because there's a lot of power in wealth, and until you understand it, and unfortunately it starts with financial literacy, until you understand it, we can't make that shift. So these
yes,
conversations that you and these questions that you had framed for me, some of them were difficult just because I don't feel like we're there yet culturally.
yes,
We just not aren't. So hopefully, maybe if I'm still around in 10 years, that shift, I'll start to see that shift where now our kids are answering these questions, and they're saying, oh no, this was taught to me at the dinner table. This was taught to me, like you said, at church. This was taught to me in the 8th grade. And then we start to see that shift. That's one of the things that we want to do within our network, is we want to make that shift apparent in the wealth.
yes. I think, you mentioned it earlier, like you said, the things that your mother didn't know. I would say that knowledge is power. I have found that. And it's like once we know these things and we put it into practice, it makes all the difference in the world. So it is about getting the information out there, and it's about not being intimidated by the process or
Yeah.
thinking this will never happen for me. I can tell you, my mom is from Jamaica. When we came to this country, my mom, she worked 3 jobs. I'll never forget that she had a morning job, and they had that
Never
skit
saw
on
her.
the Living Color. Hey, man. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that my mom is. I'm telling you, she was working 3 jobs, and I'm telling you, she has worked very hard. And I'm very proud of her. But it's like the way it is now, it is so much harder to accomplish the things that my mother's generation was able to come into this country. It's a lot harder, but it's still doable.
Wow.
It's still doable. I want others out there not to lose hope, because I
I
know,
never viewed it that way, Bree, that it's harder. I never really viewed it that way because it's supposed to be
really.
easier.
Right. But unfortunately, it's just, I remember when we first came to this country, and this is like 1981, it was just different. Now, there
Yeah.
are those who are maintaining and they're still doing well, but there's a lot of people out there struggling right now. A lot of people underemployed, a lot of people, it's like, when jobs, like when they cut back on hours, or they're just
Yeah.
not, it's tough, or people unexpectedly being laid off. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, that were just living in the moment, that weren't saving,
Yeah.
because they always thought the money would be flowing in like it always has, but it's like for those who are doing well, I hope you continue to do well. But it's like we really should be thinking for the future.
Yeah. You're so right.
So yeah, I mean, this episode, because like I said, it's I keep thinking back to not having my nails done. And that's when I knew that was I was changing my mindset, because it's like, what's more important to you right now? And it's like being realistic. And you talked about the Facebook videos that people put out or the photos for Christmas. Well, it's like this. Are you truly giving your kid a gift if you bought them gifts that you couldn't afford? And then what's going to happen next month when you have to come back down to reality,
Yep.
so these are the things that we need to be thinking about. So Sherry, I'm going to ask you for some closing thoughts, but before I do that, I just want to let the viewers know that I've been invited to be on the Donna radio show on Wednesday. I will post the details on my Facebook page. Her show is from 8 to 9. I'll just be on for maybe like a 10-minute segment, but I'm very appreciative for the opportunity to be on the Donna show.
That's awesome. Is that like a local radio show in Florida?
It's a radio show I know she's based in Florida. I can
Oh,
tell you
nice.
that, to be honest with you, I have not listened to the radio in years, because like when I go to work, I'm listening to audio. So when
Nice.
I get in my car, that's what I usually listen to, Audible. I couldn't tell you the day last I turned it on to hear music. Every now and then, because of the phone, the smartphones has
Mm-hmm.
everything now. So I usually don't. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there about the Donna show. And I'm actually very excited about this
That's awesome.
interview. Thank you so much. So, Sherry, what are your closing thoughts for tonight?
Just, every action, there's going to be, like you said before, your choices. Make sure we think before we make those choices. If you have a sound mind, and you can, everything is in your control. You don't have to continue to live with bad credit. It's not a requirement. There is, thank God, there's a process that can help repair it. And people just need to have that hope, trust the process, like you said, give themselves grace for the mistake that they've made in the past, and look at it as a new beginning, because the fact that there is a second chance is wonderful. And I think
Yes.
you brought light to that, for having me on tonight, to have me to showcase what it is that I do and that it's possible. And I want to thank you
Yes.
for that, because
Well, you're
I
welcome.
also, I'm caught up in the day-to-day work that I do, and I don't actually think about it in the way you framed it. So I
Yes.
appreciate that. But please give yourself grace, and when you're ready, reach out to me. Um, and I'm always use that word, when you're ready, because it's everyone's not ready at the
You
same time.
understand? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, doing
And
personal training, I understand that there are people who will ask me, but it's like it's not going to happen until you're ready.
so you're
So
ready.
I appreciate you. And I have to ask you one more question. I believe in journaling. I
Yes.
love to journal. What would you say to those who are in this process or about to take it on? Do you think journaling can help them during this process?
I heard you say it earlier, and I thought about it, and I said maybe I should even start doing it. I think when you write your feelings down, when you take anything from your head and you put it on paper, it's something about, it's like setting goals, right? It makes it real. So I think when you journal, it will actually give you a better perspective to see, maybe if you journal with numbers in this sense, since it's finances, maybe you can see where it is that you're putting your money, and where, how is your thoughts associated to your spending? Because a lot, at the end of the day, it's a habit, right? And how can you change that? But I feel like you are onto something with that journaling, because it's going to make it a lot more clear. Even if you're not so big on being a writer, maybe just pictures, or like a timeline or something
Yes.
to make it that more tangible item. I think that is going to be super helpful for a lot of people.
Yes, I think it makes a difference, because it's just like I would tell clients like to keep a food journal, because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, if you gain 10 pounds, you can look back and see, well, I ate all this candy and I ate a lot of cake and I ate all of this. But if you're losing, you look back and you will see what you were doing right. So I think
How do
that's
you get
very
them to
helpful.
actually do it? Because,
Well, there are some who don't. They will, but it's like I know that it actually works. I know it works, but it's like some people don't like to write.
yeah,
But
that's why
I
I
can
said
tell
that.
you that journaling, like I looked through one of my journals that I've been doing every day, and I felt like crying because I was able to look back and see in the beginning when I was talking about wanting to do a podcast,
Wow.
you know, and then to write in today about doing the 1 year anniversary. So it was like, wow, the whole time when I was writing through, like each week, how are you doing in the process, and what was the good, what was the bad? You know, it's like every week it was like I could see the growth each week.
I
And
like that.
writing it down, I think writing it down makes all the difference in the world. So there were times, because like in this book that I've been using, it said like go back to page 5. I went back to page 5. It reminded me of what I wanted to do in the very beginning. So
Wow.
that, because that was midway in the process. So that encouraged me to, like, you know what,
Keep
just keep
going.
on going, because I shared with you earlier, I wanted to give up at one point because I was struggling with the guest list. But it's like it just hit a groove and everything started to come together. So I really believe that journaling helped a lot. Like in the mornings when I do my devotions,
Hmm.
I have a couple prayer journals. So it's like I'm just big on journaling, getting my feelings out, as you said earlier, getting my feelings out, getting things out that I may not want to articulate to someone, but it's written down. So it's helping me to get it off my chest, but it's helping me to also look at it in black and white and
Hmm.
face what I need to do.
Well, you've helped me because I think I'm gonna start. I don't love to write either. But I feel like there's something about just taking those thoughts. Yeah, our head gets so cluttered. I'm big on checklists. That I'd love to do.
Yes.
Because to
Yes.
see them checked off is really, make you feel like you're fulfilling your goals. So I'm gonna
Yes.
try that. I'm gonna try journaling. I don't know, sometimes it's like, what is the guide? Should I just write a paragraph? How long? What do you suggest?
You know what? Find a way to tie it in with what you do, and to maybe you can come up with a journal where you can guide your clients, you
Mm,
know, to help them make it a part of the process, you know, so that they can keep track of what they're doing. But you know what? Some days it's a paragraph that I may write down. Sometimes it's just a sentence. But
okay.
you know, it's just that I wrote something down, because then I can look back at it the next day and see that I wrote down, and it's like, you know, oh, I must have been having a bad day because I just wrote one
One
sentence, but it
line.
was just to get it. But sometimes that's all I needed to do. But some days it may be a page. It just
Gotcha.
depends on the day and what was happening. Thank you, Joyce, for joining us. We're about to end, but please watch the replay. Sherry gave a lot of wonderful information, but I do appreciate you joining. So, Sherry, once
Thank you so
again,
much, Bree.
I have to thank you, because I mean, I've learned a lot from you, and I'm definitely looking forward to you coming back. So just let me know when you're available,
Yes,
and I'll
likewise. I've
definitely.
learned a lot from you too, Bree, and I'm gonna take some of your advice as far as, like you said, making sure that teaching this financial literacy to the youth and journaling and possibly starting a journal for my clients. I really, you always come up with great ideas.
You know what? Last week, my friend Joan, she hosted, and Joan, like, she was one of those that pushed me, you know, when I wanted to give up. But what I'm learning is that when we come together and we share
Yes.
ideas and we encourage each other, we can conquer the world. I think we just need to do more of that. I think everyone
Hmm.
is so focused on their brand, their brand, their brand. But
Yes.
it's like, you know what? Let's work together. The brand will take care of itself.
Self. No, you're
You
so
know?
right.
You know,
Thank you
so yeah,
so much, Bree, for having me.
you're
Thank you guys for
welcome.
joining us. I hope you guys learned a lot from this. And again, if you need to get in contact with me, my link is in my bio in Facebook. I have a link tree, and I'll post it below in this video once we're done. Thank you again, Bree.
Yes. Oh, you're so welcome, Sherry. And we look forward to having you back soon. I'd like to wish everyone a good night. And next week's guest will be Mark Titus. Take care, everyone, and have a wonderful week.
Good night.
Good night.